I'm Mikey Madison, and I'm a woman in Hollywood.
I honestly feel really fortunate.
Girlhood is like seeing each other.
Stick with your friends and add a little grace in that thing, too.
I want to bring the world the first African pop star.
You're just on stage performing because you love it.
Both Nina and Elle are dedicated to the same thing, lifting women up.
Get in, loser. We're going for a ride at my ELLE shoot.
Margot, I'm pranking you. I'm so sorry. I'm like on camera with Elle.
I had to do this for ELLE. It's a prank for ELLE.
I'm thinking no.
Hi, I'm Olivier, and this is my backstage breakdown. I think a lot of energy. I remember looking at everybody and saying, this is the future. This is what's gonna be.
Okay, scream. I'm literally screaming. This is a trip.
Queen of a crop top. My abs could never. Iconic.
Bold, courageous, smart.
There is really no limit to what we can craft.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Priya Rao, the executive editor of The Business of Beauty at The Business of Fashion. And today we have Stephanie Gottlieb, the founder and creative director of Stephanie Gottlieb Jewelry, Claire Stern-Milch, the digital director of ELLE, and Lydia Fotiadou, the head of digital fashion and beauty at CAA. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for having us and being here with me.
Thank you.
So we'll be talking all about fashion, style, beauty, and the changing media landscape. I'd love to start with you, Lydia, since you're on my far right here. You know, creators have completely changed the media landscape, and I'm wondering from your perspective, what have you seen these last 3 years, and what has accelerated for you?
Yeah, I feel like in the beginning, it was all about kind of like the Wild West. Nobody knew where they were going, what they wanted to do, how this was going to evolve. But I feel like in the last, I want to say like 3 to 4 years, we're just seeing more and more digital talent crossing over traditional media and traditional outlets. So you see people on Broadway, on regular TV shows, on blockbuster movies, walking runaway shows, all those different aspects that back in the day would be like a dream, and people would be like, oh, I want to be the next Brad Pitt, the next Ryan Seacrest. But for the longest time, that was, hey, you have to go through traditional routes of becoming the next Ryan Seacrest. Now, with all these personalities online, these huge audiences, I feel like more and more buyers, whether that's brands, networks, producers, whatever, they're just investing in the audience more than just the face or the talents. So I feel like the combination of those three aspects is really what sets digital talent apart and what makes them move so much faster than what traditional talent used to back in the day.
For those people who have been successful or extraordinarily successful, what do you think has been so compelling about their story arcs?
I think honestly the support they get from their fan base. I'll use the example. A year ago, I signed a creator named Trisha Paytas. So a lot of you might know Trisha. She was an OG. She's been on the internet for almost 20 years now. Been through cancellations, everything in the world, friend groups, everything. But what she always had was a family for a fan base. Those people will go to bat for her. They were hoping for her renaissance. They were hoping she was going to succeed. And after she worked on herself, those people were there to help her go to the next step. So now in the last year, she had her debut on Broadway. Now she's coming back for Beetlejuice, which for a decade, she used to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars creating fake music videos, pretending to be on Beetlejuice to manifest this happening. She's going to be on Euphoria. She is the face of MAC Cosmetics now with Alex Consani. So you see somebody who was struggling to succeed and really wanted it for 17, 18 years, all of a sudden get it. And people are like, how? It's because she tried all those years and she worked on it. And the right time came where the universe decided to give it back. So I think just staying true to what you want and really fighting for it and having that audience to support you, to buy the tickets, to buy the product you're promoting, to click on the video for the views. having that kind of like cult-like audience is the most important thing.
Claire, what about from your perspective? I mean, obviously you're from the traditional media landscape. Who have you seen really cross over? Because like you just said, Lydia, there have been people who've been canceled, people who've been able to come back, but the stories are not all linear.
No, absolutely. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yeah, it is a little loud, right?
It's a little loud in here, just making sure. Yes, I mean, the influencer conversation in traditional media is certainly nothing new. At the fashion shows for years, it's been the editors and the influencers, right? But I think this season in particular, especially with all the musical chairs going on in Europe at the big houses, there has been this embrace of influencers, right? They're sitting front row at the shows, and one that comes to mind is Nikki Campbell. At ELLE, we've worked with him for a while, creating videos. We're about to launch our creator network, which is sort of a collective of social media's best talent that we partner with. And it really works out for us because we find that we give these creators a sense of legitimacy, and in turn, you know, they allow us to tap into, as Lydia was saying, they're very engaged, diehard, if you will, content niches. But Nikki is a classic example to me because we started working with him doing some fun green screen videos. You may have seen his quick hit fashion reviews that have a lot of spice, a lot of kick, and he sort of went from sitting in his living room reporting on these carpets to being invited by Bottega Veneta in Europe to sit front row at the show dressed by the brand. And I think that really goes to show how seriously the influencer economy is working and how these luxury brands are realizing these people are really the new tastemakers in so many ways. And, you know, not just with conversions and ROI and followers, but really they're tapped into the culture. And that's what these brands really want to resonate with their customers.
Stephanie, you toe the line. Obviously, you're the founder of your namesake label, but you're also an influencer and you create amazing content. How are you able to do both and also like find legitimacy in both places?
So for me, the founder and the influencer part sort of were born together. I founded the company and was the name and the face of the brand from the start. So basically I use my platform as a means of education and inviting the customer into what was historically a fairly opaque and also sort of unapproachable industry. Like diamonds are not necessarily inviting to everybody. It feels like you need to sort of reach a certain level to be welcome in the space. And so through social media, I was able to kind of break down those walls and speak directly to the consumer, educate them about something that they didn't really understand yet, and invite them in to be part of a community. So it was through education and transparency that I sort of brought them in and really speaking to the audience as if they were a friend. So not speaking in a language that they wouldn't understand, breaking it down into layman's terms and really making the consumer feel invited to be a part of the conversation. And I think that's what creators do so well is speak directly to their audience, take that feedback and use that to fuel all of the content that they're creating. I mean, every single day we're listening to hear what does the consumer want to see, what do they want to hear, what do they want to learn more about, and that's how we're creating content. That's how we're even creating product lines. So I think it's you know, the creator economy, they're not just a new form of media. They're actually dictating what the product can look like. And as a founder and the face, I have this benefit where I can listen to that feedback and actually put it into action the very next day.
How do you think about who you want to work with? Because obviously you're an influencer in your own right, but you work with a million different kinds of people from micro-influencers to bigger faces. How do you decide the mix and who's right to speak to your brand?
Yeah, I think what's important is, first of all, finding, you know, I'm an influencer. I'm speaking to my network. And that only reaches so far. And the whole point of inviting an influencer into the brand or a creator is to be reaching other audiences, to be tapping into new niches. So, when we're considering partners, we're looking at, first of all, are they organically friendly of the brand, right? Do they wear jewelry? Do they style their jewelry well? Are they someone that we would look to as an aspirational figure? Because jewelry is in itself aspirational. And the price tag warrants, a certain type of spender. So we have to be speaking to a certain audience. But I think authenticity is at the core of everything in the creator economy. It's, who's going to be organically, truly wearing the jewelry, speaking to the brand in the same language that you're wanting to hear from them. Of course, doing it with their own spin and their own take, but in a way that you want to feel proud of the people who are wearing your jewelry and vice versa. So I think vetting the talent is really important, and, cancel culture is real and it shifts very quickly. So that's one of the hardest parts, is making sure you're aligning yourself with the right people.
When you think about the authenticity piece, you also have to balance it with the commercial piece. I think a question for all of you is, how do you do that, right? I mean, you're doing that yourself with your brand. You're doing that with, the brands that you work with. Claire, obviously you have to see that, ELLE, and Lydia, you are doing that every day in the kind of brand deals you're creating. So what's the right mix, and how do you offer that? Like, what kind of advice can you share in terms of determining that?
For me, I think it depends on what the client's end goal is. In beauty, it's much easier because let's say you're going to work with ELLE Cosmetics and Maybelline one day, and the next day promotes an aromatic beauty fragrance or a Dior blush. It's more than likely that everybody in this room has both of those kind of like high-end and low-end products in their everyday makeup kit. So it doesn't look inauthentic for somebody to be promoting those very different price points of products within the same day. In fashion, it's a little different. Like, if you do want to sit front row at Bottega Veneta, you probably shouldn't work with Shein. So I think it really depends on what the end goal is and where you see your career. But again, even in fashion, like, I'm pretty sure everybody, and even my clients who have the high-end luxury audience, they still wear Mango, they still wear Zara. It's just about how you're portraying it and how you're seeing it. And with the rise of video in the last few years versus just the editorial pictures that everybody was posting on Instagram, people get to know your personality, and everybody wants the, approachable but aspirational vibe when they're looking to talent. So as they get to know you through your videos and talking to camera and all those things, they start to understand when you're authentic, when you're real, and when you're not. So it really, really depends on each person and their kind of like career trajectory, I would say.
Yeah, I totally agree on the accessibility, authenticity note, obviously. At ELLE, we talk a lot about meeting the reader where she is. So I think also, paying attention to which platforms hit for you. They're all different, and I'm sure a new one will be popping up by the end of this panel. But, TikTok's a place to be a little unfiltered. Instagram's sort of the magazine of your life. It's shiny and pretty in a lot of ways. And, certain apps do well for certain creators and certain audiences. So I think it's paying close attention to where you succeed and where your storytelling resonates. But also at the same time, I think it's important to have an end goal, of course, because at any moment, we saw what happened with TikTok. What was that? A year ago? It almost just went away completely. So in the same sentence, you don't want to really put your eggs in one basket. So it's good to diversify and then just sort of have other irons in the fire. So if one of these platforms expires, your career and your community is still safe and has a place to find you.
I want to go back to that in just a second, Claire. But Stephanie, from your perspective as a brand founder, how are you balancing conversion with authenticity and community?
I think when we're looking at influencer and partnerships, it's more for brand awareness than it necessarily is for conversion. And I think, depending on the type of product you're selling, that's a different conversation, because with fine jewelry, it's not an instant see it, click and buy. It's really more about learning about the brand, engaging with their storytelling, finding something you love. And then when that special occasion comes, you hope that you're top of mind for them versus something like beauty where it's, okay, yeah, I could try a new lipstick or, a new foundation. I think that's a much easier entry point through social. So for us, it's really just about brand awareness and storytelling and letting the customer see themselves through other people who are wearing the jewelry. And that was something early on that as a social born brand with very small marketing budgets, everything was on me. Same face, same body, never seeing it on a different skin tone, never seeing it next to different hair texture. So that was a barrier for us to be speaking to another type of consumer. And something that, we're trying to do more is create more diverse assets now.
Mm-hmm. Claire, you just talked about the different platforms. Something that's really happening right now is the rise of Substack. And, there's so many new platforms happening around or coming up around the horizon. How do you guys decide where you want to be, how you want to be, what's right for a creator or for a brand?
Substack, yes. And I think that's completely related to this conversation as well, because you look at some of these Substackers, a lot of them are former fashion journalists. A lot of them have cultivated these followings that I think would be categorized as under the micro category, which is so interesting because oftentimes it's not frankly about the number of followers these days. It's about how engaged your audience is and how engaged your community is. And Substack is the perfect platform for that, and an extension of that being the various other social platforms. So to answer your question, I think as a magazine in 2025, we try to embrace newness everywhere. Substack's an interesting one. ELLE is not on Substack, but I think it also, depends on what your brand priorities are at any given time. We're really concentrated on social right now. I had mentioned our new creator network and partnering with creators, but from my perspective, joining Substack at this time when we're really trying to get eyeballs on our social and our website would not be as strategic for ELLE as a brand at this time. But it's really interesting to see what these writers are doing. And we do have a formalized partnership with Substack for our Well stories in the print magazine, which are, anyone's picked up a print magazine recently, these beautiful photo shoots and locations, often not with a lot of text. So we've inked a partnership with Substack where we have a lot of these amazing voices, Laurel Panton, Amelia Pacharka, writing fashion essays to accompany these visuals, and we'll put those up online, and we collaborate on those posts, and we really partner on making that together, again, as a way to tap into their engaged audience.
So interesting with Substack, especially because it's like, I really do wonder in an age where people are not reading as much, like how many Substacks can you subscribe to? It's kind of like the Netflix model, like how many streaming apps can you really be a part of? So on that note, Lydia, I'm wondering from your perspective, like, how do you tell clients where to be or suggest, newness, or maybe there's a place to pull back? Where should people be focusing their attention?
Yeah, I mean, as agents, we don't really tell clients what to post or where to post or when to post, anything like that. We pretty much, our job is to monetize their audience and help them make the right strategic moves when it comes to their career, not how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but obviously as representatives, we do talk about those things, and what I always say is it really depends on what you're comfortable with and what your audience wants to see more of. So if you're posting lifestyle things about different, I don't know, like, how to spend the ideal Sunday at home alone. And that includes recipes, an everything shower, how to set up the bedroom, everything like that. It might make sense to have a Substack because you can put everything into writing and people can click on it, they can save it, they can access it at any point to read it. Or if you do gift guides for the holidays, that makes sense for Substack as well. But if your approach is much more quick and fast, then probably something that long form doesn't work the same way that a long form YouTube video wouldn't work. So I think it goes back to what is the core need of your audience and what are you comfortable with and where do you want to see your career going before deciding what to onboard. Because the way that we see it is different platforms are like, you're a TV network and you have different shows. each platform, aka each shows, has a purpose. There's the drama shows, and that could be your approachable TikTok where you speak to the camera. There is the rom-coms, and that could be just your Instagram and like beautiful pictures. So like, how do you strategize around posting different types of content on different platforms, but still maintaining like an overall 360 brand around your name?
Stephanie, since you're posting a lot yourself and obviously for the brand, is there fatigue there? Like, TikTok especially, like it's an endless scroll, right? And now it's, there's video, there's audio. I think it can be exhausting at some point. What's your perspective on that?
So personally, I have invested myself in Instagram. It's where I started. It's the platform I know the most intimately and the platform that I get the most feedback. My team focuses on other platforms, and it's really their job to learn about what that audience wants. But I will say from a content creation perspective, it's not that we're actually creating more content. It's just how we're presenting it to the audience that looks different. So, on TikTok or YouTube, it's long form, educational, diamond heavy, where they're kind of coming to us as an expert. And on Instagram, we have this opportunity to create more editorial moments, set up the lifestyle, create this aspirational world, because we don't have a physical retail store. So if you want to experience the brand, it's usually starting on social. And we do have an e-com store, but again, it's different than that real, tactile retail experience. So there is fatigue, but I think if you're strategic with how the content is created and then how it's edited, that can actually take you a lot further than people think.
What about you, Claire?
That's so smart. I was just going to say, it's almost like reduce, reuse, recycle. When you said, we'll have some of our long form video series on YouTube, but we'll make strategic cut downs with the biggest sound bites for our other social platforms, even shorter for TikTok, a little shorter for Instagram. So really to keep up the scale that's required, especially around big events that you're swarming, like the Oscars and Grammys are huge nights for us in terms of traffic and audience engagement. So to really hit those numbers and post as much as is required to cut through the noise and make an impact and, attract eyeballs, you really have to make the most of those investments because those long form videos are an investment. It requires, big production team, scripts and multiple rehearsals and premium video. So you really want to make the most of what you have.
I'll say too, like we find on Instagram, we started testing posting the same content in video format and carousel static imagery, and we'll post it almost at the same time sometimes. And the takeaway, if you look at the insights, is that our carousels are reaching about 98% of our existing followers. So our loyal people who have already bought into the brand are seeing that, and new eyeballs are seeing the video content. So you also have to think about what your goal is with the content. Who are you trying to reach? If you're wanting to just engage with your already built community, that's great. There's a certain type of content for that. If you're wanting to reach new people, there's a different strategy.
Mm-hmm. Both as a viewer and a user of social media content, and then obviously posting for your respective businesses, how do you kind of think about cut through? Like, what is resonating with you right now? Like, is it funny videos? Is it rom-com? Is it get ready with me? Like, personally, what are you finding interesting?
We're just coming off the heels of a very busy fashion month. So something we spoke a lot about, you mentioned the getting ready with me. Obviously it started sort of on TikTok, but a lot of brands have embraced it, and you just see so many, and guilty, ELLE does them as well from time to time, but there comes a moment where I'm scrolling through my grid and it's just sort of like, wow, everybody is doing the same concept, right? So you really have to get creative and think of other prompts. Maybe a few of us get access to the same celebrity as an event. How do we make ELLE distinctive in line with our own brand voice? Like, we have a super creative team, so it's really about challenging everybody to come up with new concepts. And, there's a lot of imitation, which might be flattery. So if someone grabs your concept, you got to churn out a new one. But, like Stephanie was saying as well, it's about diversifying your grid, right? So certain things perform for different audiences and you're always looking at the metrics and insights. But, you know, we try to keep our grid to be a nice mix. I'm speaking of Instagram specifically, a combination of reels, a combination of carousels, multimedia carousels, and still imagery. We want a nice mix of those formats. So we're really, you know, hitting all those different people.
What about for you, Lydia?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, I want to see something different. And even when I think about like, who do I want to sign for my own roster? I'm kind of seeing that what does this person add versus like, okay, one of the same. So for example, one of my very, very recent signs was Callum Harper, who he's a British model, but also does a bunch of social media content. And what he's best known for is he takes the audience behind the scenes when it comes to the casting process of doing modeling. Like, you know, the day off, like, how do I get ready? Like, yes, sure, I do put the eye masks underneath, but I'm also funny. And I also have a mishap on the way to the casting or to like the studio or whatever. So I feel like for me, the most important thing is seeing something different and then seeing the passion and the love for the art. There's so many times that brands have specifically told me, I love this client because I can tell she knows the history of the fashion house and she loves fashion. She doesn't go to the show because she wants to be seen or she wants to sit front row. She goes because she loves the arts of fashion. And I feel like that's very evident after hearing it a few times, who does that and who doesn't. So I feel like when it comes to what I'm looking for when I sign somebody new in the space, it's really somebody who's authentic and who has a very clear brand image for themselves and doesn't just try to copy or be like everybody else because they see that's what sells or that's what trends.
I'm going to open it up for questions in just a second, but I have one last question for you guys. The landscape is changing so quickly. You know, we don't know what platform's coming next. People as young as 10 want to be influencers when they grow up. You know, it's wild. It's a wild, wild west out there. How are you preparing for what's next and what's important to think about as these changes are happening so quickly?
I mean, I think it's just paying close attention, like being a consumer of media and trying to see what's coming. Obviously, you know, AI is in the conversation right now. It's coming for everyone, but I would say specifically fashion media, quite quickly. So that's clearly on the horizon. How are you embracing that in a way that makes sense for yourself or your brand? I think for us, it's a lot about optimization. You know, how can we use these tools almost like a calculator to work, you know, better and faster and more efficiently while also, but you know, at the end of the day, you're not going to replace the creative thinkers. I think there's been a lot of rightful blowback against Tilly Norwood, the AI actress. People are up in arms about that because how can you actually replace the emotional, you know, the EQ of a human being? That's the question. But I think, you know, clearly AI is going to change the game. So we're paying close attention to that one. But as for what the younger generation wants to be when they grow up, it is super interesting. You see a lot of kids these days wanting to be creators, and it makes sense. It's sort of the new, I want to be a movie star. And in so many ways, you know, TikTok and a lot of these social media applications are like the reality TV of 2025. So that's what they're looking at. So, and I think those are transferable skills. So if you're looking to do that for the skill set, which there is, you know, as I'm sure Lydia can and Stephanie can attest, a huge skill set required. If you're looking at it for that instead of the fame, I think it's fine to want to do that for a living.
I think there's something powerful about being able to shape the conversation from your own voice. So I look at these platforms as a way to storytell and to be able to show who, you know, X, Y, and Z people who have never met me, who don't know about the brand, who don't live in New York, what we're about. So it's a storytelling opportunity every single time that you're getting on camera or putting out content. So that's the way I look at it, is like, how are we shaping the conversation about what people know about us, what we want them to know about us, and how they can perceive the brand in a landscape of, very competitive and, noisy business. What about for you, Lydia?
And I feel like this has been happening for decades. It's just more apparent nowadays just because of the volume of everything. Like, if we think about it, Justin Bieber started from YouTube. Shawn Mendes was Cameron Dallas's like right hand, like doing BankCon or raining around and like meet and greets like after Vine days. Like all these superstars that we see are people in very powerful positions. They started from the internet even like 15 years ago. It just wasn't named influencer or creator or whatever the word is. I feel like, kind of like how you said, investing in the craft of it and not just doing it to get the views and to get the viral content and do the trends is the most important thing, because that kind of knowledge can lead you to your next best thing. And again, even if you do have that big break, knowing how do I diversify my business to not just depend on views, the most important. One of my clients is Meredith Duxbury. Meredith is the queen of makeup, like TikTok beauty. She started with the 10 pumps of foundation. Great. That was viral for a year. But like, what do we do after that? It's not going to be viral forever. So we transitioned her into modeling. So we cut her hair. We dyed it ginger, had her dissolve the lip fillers, like literally like made her into a model. And then she walked Diesel and GCDS and all these runaways, and now is expanding into like fashion as well. So I think thinking about like, great, today is amazing and it's all working for me and I'm making millions and I get millions of views. That's perfect. But how do you make sure you're successful 10 years, 20 years, 40 years from now is the most important thing, which comes through learning the craft and really like expanding your knowledge and expanding what you're good at through social media.
Thank you. We have time for about 2 questions. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to ask?
Sorry, I was just curious about how you think about my, some sales and things happen in social media, obviously in China. So then it's emerging here, boiler pots, or you live selling vines.
I kind of look at my Instagram as like the QVC version of Stephanie Gottlieb. And there early days when lives were a thing, I was live selling like crazy. I think it depends on the business model. I have like, the shame is not there. Like, I'm okay getting on and hawking diamonds. I love it. I genuinely love speaking to the product and selling. Like, that's what I'm best at. So for me, it doesn't have to be live so much as like using that kind of MO to get on there, speak to a product, and then on to the next. That's what we do every single day.
And I think live really works when you create a need and a demand. Like, we also with like the Labubu's, those lives, like you couldn't even press the thing quick enough, like, and they got sold out. Or like Jeffree Star, he's great when it comes to like, live selling. So I think it really goes back to with the personality and with the product, what the product itself is. If it's a quick purchase, Labubu's weren't cheap. I think they were like, what, $40, $50, something like that. But the demand was so high that everybody needed to like tune in and needed to purchase as fast as they could. If it's something super cheap when it comes to the price point, chances are they will also like quickly purchase the $5, $6 keychain, lipstick, whatever it is. But if it's diamonds or it's Chanel bags, then life probably wouldn't make too much sense, because you have to think about it before you spend $5, $10 on it.
Is there anybody else? Don't be shy.
I will just say, just to add quickly, since no one else raised a hand yet, I think there is something to like the casual nature of the live that almost like breaks down the fear factor of buying whatever it is you're talking about. So can I say that we've sold a $50,000 immediately sight seen? No. But did they see it and then the next day email us and ask questions and buy it? Yes, that happens daily, weekly. That's our business model. So I think if you are a storyteller, that is the best way to sell product. So having that opportunity to speak to it and not just have someone see it on a screen, that's where the beauty is.
Anyone else? Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Priya.
Yeah.